friends, and welcome to the program. It's your friend Kyle here with another episode of English Time with Kyle Miller, and we have a nice show for you today. We're going to talk a bit about distraction today, and I think a very relevant topic in a time of social media, a time of smartphones, devices, and I think it's something that robs a lot from us in a society that is so focused on trying to gain time. We pay more to save time just so that we can waste it, it seems, on things like social media, on games, on distractions, things that maybe later on we realize were nothing more than a simple distraction. So we'll talk about that today. And of course, we'll learn some English. We'll look at some expressions over the course of today's program. And we'll translate some sentences. We have a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. My name is Kyle Miller, and welcome to English Time with Kyle Miller. All right, today I want to talk about something that most of us experience, I guess literally every few minutes. Notifications. I'm talking about distractions today, but also notifications on your phone, that buzz, right? That ding, or the vibration in your pocket, that tiny little red bubble or dot on your screen or your WhatsApp that makes you seem, or it seems urgent. But the strange thing is, most of us already know that these notifications are distracting. They're distractions for us. But what's maybe more interesting is what they're actually doing to our brains. So I've done a bit of research on this. And the effect, just read a few articles, but the effect on our brains and why it's becoming so hard to focus, why it's becoming so hard to relax. You may have found that lately. Or even sit still without looking at your phone, without checking your phone. Because this isn't just about technology anymore. I think it's about attention. And attention is becoming one of the most valuable resources in modern life. Think about how often your day gets interrupted. Las interrupciones, interruptions. You're answering an email, then a message pops up, you open the message, suddenly you're watching a video, that video reminds me of something you forgot to search or look at. Now you've got 12 tabs open on your computer, like I have right now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have about 12 tabs, pestañas, open on my computer right now, different things that have consumed a portion of my attention today. Or maybe you're looking at prices for something online, something you don't need but you're interested in, and your brain says, "Oh, a little distraction," and it kind of welcomes the distraction. So that entire chain of events can happen in just a few minutes. All these distractions, and our brains are adapting to that rhythm. There's a term that psychologists use called attention fragmentation, which basically means that your focus is constantly being split into tiny pieces. Instead of sustained concentration, your brain is repeatedly switching contexts. And every switch, of course, has a cost. Every brief interruption can leave what they call attention residue. attention residue. Part of your brain is still thinking about the previous task while trying to handle a new one. So you have all these little tasks that are not quite done in our heads, and we've moved on because we've been attracted by the latest distraction. But part of our brain is still on the other task, so you can never focus fully. So even if a notification only distracts you for a few seconds, your concentration might take you much longer to fully recover. So that's why sometimes you sit down to work for an hour and you might feel mentally exhausted, but you haven't really accomplished anything. I mean, this happens to me. I know this. Your brain has been sort of sprinting from one stimuli to another all day long. Now let's talk about dopamine. You hear people talk about this online. Dopamine, social media gives us this hit. People are talking about that word a lot online. Dopamine is often described as the pleasure chemical. But that's kind of oversimplifying it. It's more connected to anticipation, to motivation, and also to reward seeking, like instant gratification. Notifications on your phone are basically this little blast of attention. Every time your phone lights up, your brain says, "Ooh, is this important?" Your brain asks, "Is this exciting? Did someone text me? Did I get some sort of validation? Did I get some recognition for what I did, for what I posted on social media or something like that? Is there big news? Am I missing something?" Right? And that uncertainty is very powerful. It draws you to look at your phone. And because these notifications arrive unpredictably, they cause the same patterns that you would see in a casino, in a slot machine. Las tragaperras, no? The slot machines. Not every notification matters. Not everyone is important, but occasionally one does. And it's that variability. Ooh, I have a message. Is it important? It keeps us checking compulsively. So you're not just addicted to the notifications, but you're addicted to the possibility that this one might be rewarding, right? Is it going to be a compliment? Is it going to be a message from someone you like? Is it going to be good news? Is it going to be, something important or something interesting in your social media? And eventually, I think, or from what I've studied, the brain starts to crave this interruption. And silence is uncomfortable. I mean, a lot of people find it very difficult to just sit and read a book for an hour, a whole hour. Can you do that? And I think the silence, yes, like I said, silence starts to become uncomfortable. And it may be one of the biggest changes happening right now is that we are losing our tolerance for boredom. Can you be bored? Are you okay with being bored? A few years ago, waiting in line was waiting in line. Now it means checking something. You're in the supermarket line, you're going to look at your phone and you're checking something. You're checking your email. Maybe an email comes. But years ago, before social media, before smartphones, we weren't thinking, "Oh, I better run home because maybe I have an email. Maybe I have a notification." I guess those services didn't exist, but we didn't care. You know, we weren't waiting for notifications. So we're constantly looking for this stimulation automatically because our brains have become conditioned to this constant stimulus, constant input. Right? Boredom used to I think boredom was important. I don't have children, but I know a lot of young parents, they say, oh, we need to keep the kids busy all the time. We can't let them become bored. But boredom is often when reflection happens, creativity, original thoughts. Some of your best ideas probably didn't occur when you were scrolling. Maybe they occurred when you were in the shower or on a walk. Think about it. I mean, I find when I'm in bed, that's when I start to think because I'm not being distracted. I think that is the way your mind is supposed to be. Those moments when you wake up in the morning, you haven't looked at your phone yet and your mind starts thinking of other things for a while. You haven't been distracted yet. I think that's the way our minds are supposed to be. You know, you're in the shower and you can't reach for your phone, so you naturally think for yourself. Or you're on a walk, you're driving a car. Whatever, moments like that give you that freedom to think. Your brain finally has enough sort of quiet time to collect thoughts. But these notifications, bing, they keep interrupting this, right? And I think that affects more than productivity. It also affects relationships, right? With girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives, but also friends, right? Think of the quality of your conversations when you're, distracted by your screen. Even if we don't check it, there's that, you're thinking, ding, okay, what is that? And you're thinking about it, you're distracted. So people feel like they're maybe competing against the device, there's this competition with the device. The device is competing for their attention, I should say. And then there's anxiety, right? Your nervous system can't settle down because part of your brain is thinking, well, what's next? What did I miss? Who needs me? What just updated? All these things that don't really matter, usually. So what do we do about it? I guess most people think that the answer is discipline. Delete all the apps. Delete the apps. Get rid of your phone. Move into a cabin in the woods. I mean, I love camping, and I think that's part of it, is when I go camping. I go to Canada in the summer, and I go camping, and I make a goal of not having internet access. I might bring my phone for the ability to take photos, but I do not connect to the internet. And it's refreshing. I have to, it's an effort. It's an intentional effort, conscious effort, I will say, to do that. But it's very rewarding. Now, we do need communication, and maybe these devices, because society has evolved in a way that maybe we do need them for our work or whatever. I don't think we have to eliminate technology, but maybe try to be more disciplined. And I, for one, I'm guilty of this, and I'm going to try to turn off more non-essential notifications. Try not checking your phone first thing in the morning, right? It protects your day from maybe starting the day in this reactive mode. Or maybe I might even put my phone in another room. That could be a good idea. Put your phone in another room when you're working for a while to improve concentration, because your brain stops anticipating interruption or looking for interruption. And try not to multitask. People say, oh, look, I'm doing all these different things, but it's important. I mean, I'm not an expert on this. I'm just sharing my thoughts. But I think we always thought, oh, multitasking was great. He can do 5 things at once. But are you really doing each thing to the best of your ability? Or are you splitting your attention and not doing anything right? I think we need to slow down a bit. I think we need to try to stretch our attention span back out. We need to calm down. We need to realize, are these distractions on our phones really that important? And maybe we'll start to feel more mentally present again. So notifications on our phones aren't just competing for attention, they're sort of shaping the way we experience life. Because whatever keeps interrupting you, eventually it trains you and it dictates your behavior. So if we spend years reacting to every buzz, every alert on our phone, then we slowly become people who struggle to sit still, to have sustained thought. It doesn't mean that technology is evil, but it does mean that I think our attention deserves protection. Because where your attention goes, your life goes too. I think so. People say, you are what you eat. Well, maybe you are what you think about. And what we pay attention to, maybe that's who we become. If we want to just be people who just consume social media, created by, the various content creators, but the systems and the companies behind it all that want us distracted and consuming. You are what you eat, but maybe you are what you consume is a better, more modern term. You are what you consume. I guess those are my thoughts on that. Attention. Notice we say in English to pay attention. Prestar atención. No hay que devolverlo, right? En inglés se paga. We pay attention. No se presta, se paga. You pay attention. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to that. All right. Well, let's move on. I love doing little challenges, and one of my favorites is when I give answers and you ask me the questions. So let's do this. I'm going to give the answer, and you can ask me the question that I've already answered. We call it the interrogative challenge. Number 1, and they're all about attention today. Most office workers check their phones every 11 minutes. Give me the question. How often do most office workers check their phones? Isn't that crazy? Every 11 minutes. The average person receives more than 60 notifications per day. How many notifications per day does the average person receive? How many notifications per day does the average person receive? Attention residue occurs after a person switches tasks. When does attention residue occur? When does attention residue, residuos de atención, no? When does attention residue occur? Yeah, when you switch tasks, you switch to something else. Deep work requires long periods of uninterrupted concentration. What does deep work require? What does deep work require? Social media apps are designed to capture attention. What are social media apps designed to do? What are social media apps? Un app. Una app. You say app, we say an app, which is short for application, right? Multitasking often reduces productivity. What does multitasking do to productivity? What does multitasking do to productivity? Yeah, it often reduces productivity. Constant interruptions increase mental fatigue. What do constant interruptions increase? What do constant interruptions increase? Yeah, mental fatigue. Dopamine is connected to reward-seeking behavior. What is dopamine connected to? What is dopamine connected to? Connected to reward-seeking behavior, yes. Blue light from screens can affect sleep quality. What can blue light from screens affect? What can blue light from screens affect? Yes, sleep quality. And this is A-F-F-E-C-T, right? Affect. The verb to affect, okay? With an A. They can afectar. Tener efectos sobre la calidad del sueño, sleep quality. Email notifications can create a sense of urgency. What can email notifications create? What can email notifications create? Yes, a sense of urgency. Task switching forces the brain to refocus. What does task switching force the brain to do? What does task switching force the brain to do? Yes, it forces the brain to refocus, to constantly shift and refocus. Background music helps some people concentrate while studying. When does background music help some people concentrate? Now, I say it that way because my answer was while studying. So when? While studying. However, I could say background music helps some people concentrate while studying. Then it would be what? Concentrate. So in this case, I said when, okay? Okay, we'll do two more sentences. Now, I need you to do these out loud, right? En voz alta, okay? Frequent interruptions can increase stress levels. What can frequent interruptions increase? Yeah, stress levels. And the last one. Deep concentration is sometimes called a flow state. What is deep concentration sometimes called? Yeah, it's sometimes called a flow state. Flow state. Okay, there you have it. So we've looked at a bit of interrogative, the famous interrogative challenge, and that is a great exercise to help you improve agility, asking questions, forming questions, and truly mastering the interrogative form. But today's topic, I think, has been an interesting one, and it's one that I'm not trying to preach on this as if I'm perfect. I think I am, like many of us, guilty of being the victim of distraction and realizing that I probably should make changes to be more efficient, to be more productive in what I do. And I have, I think a lot of us are this way. We're looking at our phones all the time. We're constantly distracted, but we need to, and I know that I need to try to put it away and focus and maybe divide my day ahead of time. Divide my day and say, okay, I'm going to focus a certain amount of time. The next 2 hours are going to be dedicated to this task, and I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm going to focus and get this done, and then I can move on to the next task, as opposed to being distracted. An email arrives, and then you do something else, and then you don't get back, or you get in the groove, as we say. You get in the groove, que coges el ritmo. Con un trabajo, you get into a groove, and then when you get distracted, you don't get back to that efficient state as easily. So yeah, I think I'm a victim, or I'm not gonna say victim, but I'd say I'm guilty of this. So if you have thoughts on this, let me know. I would appreciate your feedback on this topic or others. But if you have thoughts on this, or maybe you're an expert on this, or you have a certain opinion, you can always share your opinions with me on social media. I'm Kyle Miller on Instagram and Twitter, Instagram or X as they call it. And you can also reach me by email, kyle@theenglishcollective.com. Kyle@theenglishcollective.com. So I encourage you to drop me a line. Or if you have ideas, something else you would like me to cover on a future show, let me know and I can do that. I didn't get to any translation today. Maybe I said I would at the start of the show, so I apologize. But I think I'm going to finish there for today. It's the podcast format, it's free form. But I will try to get to some translations next week on the next episode. But thank you for listening. I appreciate your help. And I would appreciate if you would subscribe to the podcast. It really does help me. That's one thing you can do to help me, is subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use, iVoox, Spotify, and maybe share it with your friends. If you know someone who wants to improve their English, you can share this podcast with them, and we can, they can, hopefully they will appreciate it as well. Okay? But yes, I guess one little grammar lesson. Remember, attention, we say in English to pay, right? No se presta. Prestar atención. We say to pay attention. Pay attention to something, right? So yes, attention span, distractions, and social media certainly ties into all that. I think an interesting topic. Hopefully you have enjoyed it as well. And I thank you for listening. I'll be back again very soon with another episode. This has been English Time with Kyle Miller. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.